Hi everybody, so welcome to Candidate Question Time. My name's Emma and I'm the Students Union Manager and also the Deputy Returning Officer, which means I manage the elections process at ULaw. So we're here tonight with half of our elections candidates, and they're going to be answering some pre-submitted questions about their manifestos and also more generally about why they're running to be one of your two co-presidents. The other half of the candidates have already had their question time, and the recording of their session is also on our YouTube channel. So the questions that the candidates will be answering this evening on their microphones, pre-submitted questions. The candidates have had sight of these about half an hour ago, just to kind of reduce any anxiety about being asked questions on the spot. If we do have anybody, any students in the audience tonight, you are very welcome to submit any additional questions in the chat box, and that they can be to either some or all of the candidates, and they're very welcome to answer those in the chat as well in between their spoken answers. So all of the spoken questions are going to be timed, just so that everybody has that kind of equal opportunity and so that we don't end up running on for several hours. I'll tell the candidates how long you've got before each section. And I will give you about a 20-second warning just as you're coming up to the end of your time, just by lifting my hand up like this, and I'll keep it there. So do keep an eye on my lovely face, because that will be your 20-second warning. If you do see my hand go up, you don't need to kind of stop in your tracks. It's just a bit of a warning that you're coming towards the end of your time. So do feel free to just wrap up your sentence, wrap up your kind of current point, and then we'll kind of hand over to the next person. If you do go over your time by any more than about 10 seconds, then I will interrupt you. So just kind of when you see my hand go up, just start to wrap things up a little bit. Okay, fabulous. So I think we are ready to go. So first of all, we're going to start off with some quick introductions from our candidates. So I'm going to give each candidate 3 minutes each just to introduce yourself, tell us why you're running, and explain a little bit about your manifesto. As I said, you've got about 3 minutes in total. I will put my hand up when you get to about 2 minutes 40. And yes, so we're going to start in alphabetical order by first name, which means that I'm going to come to you, Aislinn, first.
Am I recording from now? Am I
started? Yes.
Oh, TikTok. Okay, so hello everyone. Thank you for coming and listening to me ramble on tonight. So my name's Aislinn. I've joined ULaw this year at the Newcastle campus to do the conversion degree as a master's. So previously I was studying at Durham University, so local to the area, and I was doing biology. So that's just a little bit about me. Why on earth would you vote for me? What experience do I have? So when I was at Durham, for my college cheerleading team, I was co-social sec for a year. So that means I have extensive experience in, helping to run fun events and come up with ideas for new things, and also helping to integrate newcomers and freshers into the team, and helping them sort of build friendships with other people and also managing their welfare. I also have extensive customer service experience, as I'm sure many kind of students do as well, trying to get any money that we can by any means. So I'd like to think that I have a very clear communication style and good problem solving ability. I'm quite an enthusiastic person as well, for whatever I choose to get myself into, and I'm quite outgoing as well, I'd like to think. And I was also a peer mentor many moons ago. So that means I am, okay at, I hope anyway, at building reports with people and sort of understanding students' needs as well. Just a little bit about my aims as president. The first aim I would like to implement is to expand grant opportunities for students from lower income backgrounds. As a student from a lower income background myself, that's something I feel very strongly about, is the access issue to education. I think financial barriers, particularly in relation to law careers, are, very evident, and more needs to be done to expand the access issue. So that's my first aim. My second aim is to improve mental health services on campuses. So that includes just signposting more of what's actually available at the moment, which I think is kind of lacking across campuses personally. Employing more counsellors so that students can make urgent and non-urgent appointments to talk about issues such as, if they have current mental health issues, depression, anxiety, anything like that they currently have, or if they're experiencing imposter syndrome, not feeling good enough, that sort of thing. And also getting experiences in place such as therapy dog visits, which I'm sure everyone would love, going to campuses, and that's something I also think would encourage more integration of students between different courses, and encourage cohesion a bit more as well, which is always good. My final thing that I want to do as president is to change the assessment feedback policy so that everyone can get feedback and get a better return on their investment they put into their education.
Great, thanks Aislinn. Okay, I'm going to pass over then to Daniel next.
So hi everyone, in case you don't know who I am, I'm Daniel Finlay and I'm the current Student Union President. It's been an absolute privilege to represent you to the university over this last academic year, and I come back to you again to ask for that trust that you gave me nearly 12 months ago now. We've done some incredible work over this last academic year, and I understand that you might not have heard about it all. So this is why I was so keen to push for a second sabbatical officer. Now, no matter who you choose out of the candidates, you'll be sure to see the SU on campus a lot more and them to have that more student-facing role. Excuse me. You'll see from our manifesto that there are just a handful of the achievements that have gone by this past academic year. And owing to time, I won't be able to talk about them all, but please do ask any questions that you might have. You're here to sort of recognise and see what I'm going to do for you and what's in it for you over this next academic year. And I'm going to talk about what I'm going to be doing for you going forward. So firstly, I'm going to continue with my work around wellbeing, communication, and your achievements, building upon the milestones that are in place so far. I want to facilitate a stronger inter-campus community. I know day to day, you don't really get the opportunity to interact with anybody outside of your classroom. I want to change that. I want to ensure that the University of Law is first and foremost a university experience. I'm going to do this through events and competitions, excuse me, such as sporting tournaments. So I've already got plans and ideas to have a inter-campus football competition, as well as national mooting competitions for students as well, to really build upon that advocacy experience. Secondly, I want to fiercely promote your academic interests, ensuring that you receive the high standard of education that you expect. And I'm going to do this by building upon the student charter, which I created. And I intend to, with that, hold the university to account when standards start to slip. I want to help change the current policy around concessions as well. For too long, too many students have been kept in the dark over the result of their concession. I want to support those students in getting that changed. And finally, I want to work with employability to provide you with the opportunities to network and to enhance your CV, placing you in the best position to help you secure careers in law, in business, and beyond, which I'll be talking a little bit more about later. So ultimately, voting for me, firstly, you'll get a candidate who has a proven track record of ensuring that your voices are heard at all levels, whether that be for your subject tutor or the vice chancellor. You'll get a candidate that's experienced with 5 years at ULaw, completing an undergraduate and postgraduate degree. And you'll be able to get a candidate who can hit the ground running from day one. But ultimately, no matter who you choose, just make sure you vote. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Daniel. Okay, I'm going to move over to Emma next.
Hi everyone, so I'm Emma. I'm a current LPC student at the Leeds campus. So I started in September, so I've been here now about 7 months. So prior to that, I studied at Newcastle University. I did my law undergraduate degree there. I was there for 4 years because I did an extra year because I did a year abroad in Norway. I studied at the University of Oslo. So kind of with this sort of being like my 5th year as a student now, throughout this time, I've kind of been involved sort of in university, lots of different sort of societies to try and sort of in roles to really sort of just improve the experience for students. So when I was at Newcastle University, I was elected welfare officer for the Law Society as well, like Aislinn. Many moons ago, I was a peer mentor, both when I was at Newcastle, but also during my year abroad as well. And I also, sort of the equivalent of the Law Society out there, I also helped international students. I was part of the events committee over there, organising different events and being a peer mentor out there as well. So this kind of just sort of like wealth of experience has kind of given me sort of an understanding of kind of what students kind of expect, what they kind of want from university. And it's also sort of given me that experience in actually kind of implementing that and creating that change for students. So it kind of links quite nicely into kind of my aims, and sort of, well, the main reason why I've kind of wanted to run for co-president really is just sort of seeing the difference that I sort of had as an undergraduate to kind of now. The main sort of, not issue, but the main kind of thing that I want to push for really is just to have that sort of more of a social experience for students. I think I know myself, and I think many others, whether it be, sort of be through COVID or kind of the fact that there's lots of different campuses for you, or you kind of only really, and so I think the way that it's kind of set up anyway, you kind of only really interact with the people in your classes, and there's not really a lot of kind of social aspects around there, which is quite a shame, I think, as well, not only for kind of getting to relax after you're studying, but also it kind of helps around exams, having other people sort of bounce off and bounce ideas off. So kind of the main thing that I want to do is really sort of introduce an online space, both for kind of socializing and for sort of academic use. I think as well, because there are a lot of students who study online who maybe don't get that experience of being in campus, just kind of really integrate people together a little bit more. My second aim as well is really just to have a little bit more clarity sort of around the exam process. I think, speaking as an LPC student personally, it was quite different from undergraduate degree, and I think there kind of maybe wasn't really as much kind of help and support around that. So really just sort of increasing the resources around what is expected about exams and what they're going to look like. And then finally, just have a little bit more communication from the university, both in terms of when you kind of make requests or kind of question them, but also as well just to get, there is a lot that ULA has to offer, and just sort of make that really clear for students. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Emma. You're all doing very well at keeping to time tonight. I'm very impressed. Okay, next I'm going to hand over to Navjeet.
Hello, everyone. My name is Navjeet Dhanda. First of all, I would like to say very good evening to all my fellow contestants and to you, Ms. Tiago, and to all of the students who are going to listen us. So basically, I have selected some few points that will be a key points from university and from my manifesto. I have chosen that we have to promote some more career events. That is first and foremost thing, as in order to provide that from every campus of our university, student can attain a good job. So basically, I will work regarding this, and yes, I will make sure that there's health and safety of students and everyone feel comfortable in our campus regarding of every campus like Birmingham, Leicester, everywhere, wherever there is. So as I feel like student leader or student president is a bridge between university and students. So basically, I am there for resolving the issues between the students and the university. And it's good to be a part of this university, as we are having a democratic process. And I really feel glad that we are in this university which are having this democratic process. Is very good. And I'm happy to be part of this. Moreover, as my fellow contestants already told a lot of things about their manifestos, it's good, as because we all are from different backgrounds, we all are from different cultures, and everyone is having their unique ideology. So as this is a friendly election, well, I really would like to admire everyone and appreciate everyone who are doing very good. And one thing more that is basically the key thing is we are not socially much aware. So basically students also don't know much about our union. So I will make sure that our union should be socially aware too, and everyone can able to convey us messages. So that's the main thing, I guess, that should be there. If student will not select me, still if any president will be there, this is the main thing that should be. Because nowadays, if you gonna ask any student, they will tell to you that they even don't have password for the student union, which is quite strange. So it should not be there. Well, with all these things, I really would like to work a lot for my students, my union, and I do believe on our university. So definitely we will go ahead and bring some new changes and develop students, develop their careers with these key points in my manifesto. Thanks.
Excellent timing. Thank you, Navjeet. Okay, next, Santhosini.
Hello. So as you guys know, I'm sick today, but I'm going to do my best. I'm Santhosini. You can refer to me as Santo, and I go by the pronouns she, her. I'm currently doing my graduate diploma in law at London Bloomsbury, and I'm running for co-president of the Students' Union. I would love to use this opportunity to make a difference to support all the students by enhancing their experience at ULaw. My previous work experiences and responsibilities include working for Lancaster University as their international student ambassador and their well-being officer, which has helped me learn more about networking with people, especially students, and helping them push themselves to explore just different dimensions. I've also been able to understand and raise student concerns just beyond their academic means for about 4 years now. And back to talking about my aims, if I do get elected, employability, aside from what the employability services at university has to offer, and focusing extensively on hosting company assessment panels and firm-specific workshops, and what Navjeet was talking about, just career-focused workshops, or just what Daniel was talking about, focusing more on just securing that employment for students as soon as they're done with their degree. And just keeping students informed overall regarding this aspect. And inclusivity, just focusing more on introducing inclusive behaviors workshops to tackle discrimination and highlighting the concerns faced by students from underrepresented categories and groups and other ethnic and religious minorities, because I believe that together we're stronger. And I do believe that teamwork takes precedence, and breaking down these discriminant barriers is very essential. Well-being, I would love to collaborate with student services to improve the quality of support systems that are already in place for students struggling with mental health, especially during the pandemic, and also the stigma surrounding social health and sexual health, by creating safe spaces for students and facilitating these conversations more efficiently. In regards to communication, effective channels of communication to address student concerns in a more timely manner. And this is based on a personal point of struggle, because around the time when I was enrolled, it was just a period of panic. I also have other goals in regard to sustainability, increased engagement, and helping students to find their element by easier access to student groups or more societies to pursue what they love with other people who share the same interests. So having been a student and having worked for students, I've been on both ends of the spectrum, and I understand that there's just a lot more to the student experience than just the educational aspect. So I don't just want to represent the student voice, but amplify it. And I wish to achieve these goals collectively with my co-president. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Santo. And then finally, Tiago, please.
Hello, my name's Tiago Lemos. I'm doing my LLB. I'm in my 3rd year now, so I'm pretty experienced with how the student union works, at least in the student side of things. I've been a student sustainability champion in Guildford for the past 3 years, all my course, and it's taught me how to efficiently work as an in-between for staff and students for the benefit of both of them. I've also was a student representative in my 1st year. I wasn't in the 2nd year because it wasn't a thing because of the pandemic. And that taught me how to effectively communicate the voices of the students to the staff so that the students could actually be listened to. And I feel like that's a skill that will very much benefit me if I should be elected. So in regards to my first goal, which is to ensure student voices are listened to and acted on, I put this as my goal because it felt that in my time as a student, the student union didn't feel particularly close to us, in that there wasn't much of a line of dialogue between the two of them. If I was elected, I would try and open this line of dialogue by setting up regular polls through email in which students could vote for their most important issues to be raised to the student union, so that the student union could then take a plan of action as to how to actually approach it. Because if you don't know what the students want, you're not going to be able to solve any problems. My second goal is to focus on student health, both mental and physical. So in my time as a student, the only real mention of mental health has been in a very occasional email. And I think there's one thing on the student union, which actually goes into it, but you have to look for it quite hard. It doesn't seem like something that is particularly shown for everyone. And I think that puts off a lot of people. So obviously, if you're going through a lot of things in life, it's probably the first place you're going to look is at the student union website. Like, this needs to be put in front of people for them to see it. Otherwise, they won't. I'll go into more detail as to what I'll do for mental health later. For physical health, I don't feel like that's been promoted at all in my experience. I think there was mention of one sports team in my 3 years being a student here. So that's not great. And my third goal is that every student leaves with a solid path ahead of them with good, readily available advice. So there should be more guidance as to like training contracts, vacation schemes and the like. So vote me. Thank you for listening.
Great, thanks everybody. So that concludes kind of our introductions of our candidates. So now you know who everybody is. So we're going to move on to part 2 of question time now. So these are the individual questions that are specifically kind of aimed towards each candidate's manifestos. So I'm actually going to go in reverse order now. So starting with kind of the end of the alphabet by first name. So for these questions, you've got 4 minutes each because you want to go into a little bit more detail about kind of certain aspects of your manifesto. So 4 minutes, and again, I'll kind of give you a bit of a warning at about kind of 20 seconds left. So we're going to start off with Tiago first. So Tiago, your question is, could you please give us an example of how you would focus on students' mental and physical health during your time in office if you were elected? You've got about 4 minutes.
Okay, so in regards to mental health, first of all, I think a very good idea would be to provide a sort of bursary for lower income students, like myself, for instance, to be spent on like therapy and the like, because I've seen a recent scheme where it was if you do a voluntary participation thing outside of uni, you would get like £100 or something. And I don't see why you couldn't purpose some of this money to, actually helping students get through uni, because it's a very stressful time and it breaks a lot of people, and that's not right. Furthermore, I would regularly send out emails with relevant contact details for mental health hotlines, and on top of that, any safeguarding officers in the corresponding uni that this is being sent to, so everyone will get it for their respective campus. And if possible, I would push for certain staff, again, and preferably at least a couple in each campus, depending on the size. So my campus is quite small, so you probably wouldn't need more than one, to undergo training courses so that they could better support students and talk to them, and if needed, refer them to professional help. And then advertise these staff members as like individuals that people can go and visit when needed, put their offices there or their numbers or email. Now moving on to physical health, I think it would be a good idea to provide bursaries for students who compete in sporting events, even outside of unis. So for instance, if someone were to do a sport and compete in it semi-professionally, like any area competition really, you could get a bursary of a certain amount. And I think this would encourage a lot of people to put more into any hobbies they might have as a sport. And then, obviously you're going to be healthier as a result of this. Also, it doesn't seem to me that we have any varsity squads. So these could be area-based teams, because my campus is tiny and I don't think you could get a whole team from it. So you could go to nearby campuses, since we have so many, to form teams. So recently, an example of this is the Royal Uni of Surrey and Royal Holloway had a competition in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And in that I know Royal Surrey hired a coach to train these students so that they could then compete. And I've seen absolutely nothing like this in my 3 years here. I haven't, like, nothing even close. And I don't know why our students are being restricted in this way. And I think everyone should be given the opportunity to compete in sports, because it's a very important thing, especially in the time where, you know, disease is skyrocketing and everyone's really worried about getting sick. And being physically fit is one of the best ways to make sure that you'll be okay through all of this. So that's it. Thank you for listening.
Great, thanks, Tiago. Okay, so our next question is for Santo. So Santo, your question is, if elected, how would you propose to tackle institutional discrimination towards underrepresented groups? It's a big question.
Okay,
4
so
minutes.
institutional discrimination. Okay, so as an international student and a woman of color myself, I feel like this is one of my main aims, as I've like experienced this personally, and this is why like I would like to tackle it as efficiently as possible. So I feel like it all needs to begin with just having a conversation with like those students, and like from the get-go, and just everything about what it means to be an inclusive institution. And it can be like inclusive of like any kinds, like cultural or academically, like it's just like a very important aspect in like all of those like groups. And as I mentioned, like inclusive behaviors workshop, like I feel like this should be like included in staff training at ULaw, whether delivered like externally, or it could be like a student-led like conversation. But I feel like it's important that we include this. And also involving students in color in conversation is very important, because I feel like there could be just like particular areas or particular conversations where there's just persistently like low engagement or low participation when it comes to this area. So just being open to like actively listening to like these marginalized groups. Creating learning opportunities that essentially like acknowledge the race, ethnicity, and just like preventing racism, homophobia, transphobia by engaging students in learning experiences. And you can start small by like emailing with like pronouns and making that like a standard thing, or just introducing yourself with like your pronouns out there. Like it's not very hard, and that way you get to enlighten everyone around you, and everyone's like educated about the concept. So I feel like that's really important, because not everyone knows the importance of pronouns, and that's really sad. Just addressing issues of like race, culture, and ethnicity in these ways would make it like very thoughtful, because I've come from a background where like talking about race can get like really uncomfortable because of the environment that I'm placed in. And encouraging just like more active listening and recognizing this as like a shared vulnerability that transforms this into an experience. As all I want to do is like feel noticed and appreciated, and I feel like everyone would agree with that if they are from like an underrepresented group or like an ethnic or religious minority. So basically just establishing a framework to operationalize these biases, because if left unnoticed, they could potentially affect like the everyday life of a student, where they would just not feel comfortable going into uni, or it would take a toll on their mental health, which is why these are included as two of my aims. So yeah, another thing would be addressing like BAME students' grades and pass rates, and just like assessing academic needs more carefully, because when I'm talking about academic inclusion, we could be talking about biased marking and just removing the stigma in terms of like just judging too harshly on grammatic errors, because not all international students like practice English as their first language, essentially. So it is like really hard for certain students. So yeah, awareness workshops to just like help this whole process, and just celebrating different cultures as an international student, like International Affairs and Black History Month and LGBTQ+ History Months. And yeah, so that'd be appreciated. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, so our next question is for Navjeet. And Navjeet, your question is, in your manifesto, you mention promoting more and more power in students' hands. Could you explain a little bit more about what you mean by this, please?
Of course, why not? Well, basically, as being international student here, as I'm from India, and I told it previously also, that it's good to have a democratic process in university. So basically, democracy is about the power should be in the hands of voters. So if they are going to elect us, they must feel comfortable in the university. So they must feel like whatever in front of them, they can do it easily, either this way or another way. So I am having this idea in order to make them more powerful. Like if they are feeling something for to be changed in university, then that should be there. So like I will do work as a bridge between university and students, as I previously told also. So it's good to make them powerful. So that's why I take this idea as a key point, like to promote more and more power in students' hands. And as my all fellow contestants are here, probably they are also having good points in their manifestos. If honestly, if students give me chance and I will be president, then for the best things from their manifestos also, I will implement that. Because we all are, this is a friendly election and we all are students here. So every student, they are also student, I am also student. So every student should feel that their voice is to be heard by university, by their president, and as some of our friends, which are small campuses. So basically, they also need some empowerment. So that's why I collectively use this point that I am there to promote more and more power for students, and they should be feel like, yes, this is our university where everyone is for us. Yes, this is our student union where our leaders are for us. So that's why, that's all. Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Navjeet. Okay, our next question then is for Emma. So Emma, your question is, your manifesto mentions ensuring that students have a greater understanding of what is expected from them in assessments. Could you give us some examples of how you would propose to make this happen?
Yeah, of course. So just from my perspective, I'm an LPC student now, so it is kind of going to be slightly biased towards like my studies, but hopefully the things that I suggest will be able to sort of apply just as beneficially for all students of all the different courses that you all have to offer. But for me personally, I remember it was quite a jump from undergraduate level to now. So I was quite unsure of kind of what was expected for me, kind of what would be assessed and sort of how it would be assessed. So kind of the main thing that I would want to implement is just to give students more access to past papers and sort of previous materials. So for me, for my course personally, we only have access to one past paper. And I think that's something that could be improved upon. I think especially because ULA has access to all these resources. So I feel like they should be available and accessible to students to have. I think as well, that's definitely the best way to practice any exam, is just sort of having an awareness of what's actually been assessed in previous years, sort of how questions are worded. I think that's just going to be beneficial for students, just in terms of feeling a bit less anxious about what's to come, if they've got a bit more of an understanding of what is actually going to be assessed, how it's going to be assessed, and just to have a bit more practice about that. I think that's going to be helpful in terms of revision preparation in general, but also from a mental health point of view, just feeling like you have a greater understanding about what actually is potentially going to come up. So I think that's definitely the main thing, just giving students access to past papers is definitely sort of my big pushing point. I think secondly as well, there's kind of, I personally found there was sort of a lack of clarity about, okay, what is actually assessed? Again, from my experience, it was very much just like, everything's going to be assessed, which, okay, that's probably university policy, that's fair enough. But I think just maybe having tutors themselves throughout different workshops, I found some tutors are really good about saying, this is how this is going to be assessed, this is kind of how you maybe need to prepare for it, and others kind of didn't address it at all. So I think just having a bit more consistency, so it's kind of that fair approach for all students. So it's not based on if you've got a tutor who's maybe been here for several years and tutor's maybe only been here for one, you know, that's not their fault at all. It's just having that consistency, so all students are getting kind of the same information. And I think as well, there is a lot of information sort of on Elite about exams in general, but I think One, I think Elite, as helpful as it is quite a lot of information overload, and it can be quite difficult to actually find that information. So I think just making it a bit more accessible to students, so either having your actual tutors for different modules telling you, okay, for this specific exam, this is how this is going to be examined, would be very, very helpful. So just making it specific to each kind of individual course. And it is helpful to have that general information up there. I'm not suggesting that that gets taken away, but I think it's just maybe, again, having a bit more clearer signposting to that, and maybe just having resources of kind of specific modules for how things are going to be assessed and what it's going to look like. And I think finally, just kind of the practical day-to-day assessments. So kind of just little formalities such as, okay, where is your assessment going to be? I think I remember for me personally, we only found out like a week before. And I think that's maybe just an additional layer of stress that could be removed, just having a bit more kind of warning in advance about, okay, this is what's going to be assessed, how it's going to be assessed. This is also on the day-to-day, where you're going to be, where you need to be. I think that would just, reduce anxiety in general about exams, and hopefully just make students feel a bit more comfortable about sitting them. So yeah, that was everything. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Emma. Okay, I'm going to hand over to Dan next. So Dan, your question is, how do you think the offering of opportunities from employability can be improved for students across the university?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've only got to look at the current job market. At the moment, it's getting more and more difficult to obtain training contracts, far more difficult to obtain pupillage. And I really want to set up students in the best position possible to secure those positions. Even for paralegal work, you need often sometimes a year, even 2 years actual experience for a low-level paralegal job. And I think part of the task is promoting the opportunities that are already in place and exist. I feel like, especially for online students and international students, it's not always made readily available for them that that they can go in and book in an interview with the careers department, a practice interview or a practice pupillage interview, or that they can attend sort of CV building workshops. So it's about promoting employability and the services that they offer, because as previously been mentioned, that information might be on Elite, but Elite is not it's not how do you put this politely, it's not the most navigatable experience in the world. So it's really about bringing that to the surface. And I think it's about working with employability to expand opportunities that already exist as well. So for example, John Watkins, Director of Employability, runs the Commercial Awareness Competition, which I've been judging in the past. And it's a really great way for students to express themselves outside their degree. So essentially, students will come up with a plan, a pitch on how they can improve a particular business of their choice. And I thought of another competition that could be hosted, almost like a Dragon's Den style competition, where students can come with an idea for a business that they have and they want to set up. This can be judged between the SU and employability, and then some investment will be given into that idea. And one, because it's great to put on a CV, it goes back to that point of I really want to make sure that you're standing out from the crowd and in the strongest position possible to compete for those jobs. But also, it's another opportunity to show some personality, which I do think is lacking in the university. You don't really get many opportunities to sort of demonstrate your skills outside of the classroom. So that's another point as well. And also, if I am chosen to be elected again, I want to bridge what I think there's a gap between employability and the alumni department, because we've got some great people in business, in law, such as barristers, judges, directors of companies, and I really want to put you in a room with the person that you want to be. Essentially, so hopefully, well, no, I can guarantee before July, before this term finishes, I really want to collate some of your ideas about who you'd like to see at the university, what speakers you'd like to see, what tips you can get from them. Another point, and something I want to work on, is expanding the skills development program. So I'm not the brains behind this operation at all. Emma can take all the credit for that, but I have championed it, and I've supported it, and I really want to see that's expanded, because those practical, those skills such as negotiation, mediation, advocacy are really important. So to build on them is going to be vital. And a very quick last point: non-law careers. Not everybody wants to be a solicitor or a barrister, and it's very important that we're holding networking events for those students to interact with employers there. So they're my goals and plans.
Thanks, Dan. I hate to cut you off there talking about my...
I can ramble on forever, Emma.
Talking about my skills development programme especially, I hate to cut you off there from that. Okay, and then finally on this section, we're going to come full circle back to Aislinn. So Aislinn, your question is, how would you propose to expand grant opportunities to students from lower income backgrounds, particularly thinking about the cost and the sustainability of such a project?
Yeah, that's the key question, isn't it? Where's the money going to come from? Higher education as a whole at the moment is definitely in sort of precarious financial positions. So the money certainly isn't just in abundance, doesn't grow on trees. In terms of the main sources of revenue for such a project, I think obviously relying on donations and foundations sorts of sources are key, perhaps looking to alumni as well. And also, broader than that, just more sort of sporadic ad hoc fundraisers, perhaps like sporting events, just an example, but, also coordinating ththose with law firms that the university has built partnerships with already, or businesses that, look for law students, or, people who just study business with the University of Law, and, partnering with like education charities as well. I think as well, currently we already have a £2 million budget available for scholarships and bursaries. So I don't think it would be too unreasonable to just say, it's a good reasonable point to just work closely with the finance team to actually restructure that a little bit and, reallocate a little bit more of that to need-based grants instead of sometimes more niche scholarships. So like there's a STEM-based scholarship or bursary that I know of, that's only going to apply to a very small amount of people who'll be looking to study with the university. So sort of reallocating that, I think, would be, a very smart thing to do. I think as well, you can expand the participation criteria for need-based grants and scholarships, things like that. And I think by implementing a sliding scale instead of just a threshold of, a certain income would be helpful. I think by implementing something like that, that would make the most of the available budget that you have to work with, whilst also allocating an appropriate amount to each student that's actually in need of the grant anyway. Yeah, I think just to reiterate, I think the key point is really just working closely with the finance department, communicating clearly on what is actually possible, what is reasonable, and just thinking outside the box and laterally to find creative ways of making the most of what is actually available. I think in terms of sustainability, we have to look at if there's the existence of any university endowments and allocating money from that, because that's a steady stream of income. I think as well, building partnerships with firms is also, looking for income is a really important factor as well. Firms, law firms and barrister chambers, Inns of Court, those sorts of places, they invest so much into students anyway, and they have those resources. So that's a really good point to consider, and that's also just building the partnership with them further to bridge the gap between studying and then being employed by them in the future, if that's what you're looking to do. I think also a really key point is just to start small, literally just by widening the participation criteria and a little bit, and creating smaller bursaries like hardship sorts of funds, and tracking the progress of these and building on that is the way to go. Rome isn't built in a day, as it said. So it's not realistic to just say, well, we're going to go in and give 10 grand to every student who has come from a low income background, who's gone to a state school, you know, whatever the criteria currently is. So yeah, I think those are my key points. And I think that's all I have to say.
Great, thanks, Aislinn. Okay, thanks everybody. There were some really difficult questions there for some of you, so thank you very much. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the kind of individual questions that are specifically based on your manifesto. So next I'm going to ask you some questions that are kind of more general. They don't necessarily relate to your manifesto. You might find that they fit in just kind of purely by chance, but they're not kind of specifically aimed at kind of any particular people. So we're going to start off with a question that I'm just going to ask the three of you. I'm not going to ask every question to every one of you. You're going to have 2 minutes to answer these questions, so it's a little bit shorter, kind of a little bit more of a short and snappy answer for these. So the first question is, if you had to choose only one thing from your manifesto to focus on, what would it be and why? And I'm going to ask that question to Emma first, please.
Yeah, so I think the main thing really about my manifesto is I really do want to just create that great sense of community between students. I think the one thing that I would definitely pick on, or sort of my focus would be to try and just sort of create a bit more, probably like this, just an online space really for students to either, if you're studying online or on campus, just for everyone to kind of come together and just to kind of feel a little bit more like you've got kind of the support of your peers. I think as well, it's kind of, especially, well, both if you're in studying on campus or online, you kind of by chance, you just meet the people that you're kind of put in class with, and then there's not really a lot of kind of social engagement outside of that. So I think just being able to have sort of that collaborative space would be able to not only bring you closer to kind of your peers on campus, but also across campuses as well. So I think it'll be really helpful just in terms of trying to get a little bit more out of that sort of university experience from kind of like a social point of view, but also kind of academically as well. Just being able to have that space online, it'd be really useful resource around exam times to kind of bounce ideas off each other. And yeah, even when it's not an exam time, it's just a great idea just to kind of meet people and hopefully be able to have that nice chill time outside of studying as well. So that's definitely the main thing that I just want to focus on. That's just sort of one example of how I thought would be a good way to bring everyone together. I think particularly still because of people being online and people still being on campus, that's kind of a great way to include everybody as part of that. But I know there's sort of different other ways to try and create that sense of community between students, whether that's through different kind of competitions, both kind of between campuses. But yeah, that's my main focus.
Thanks, Emma. Okay, same question then to Navjeet. So I'll just repeat the question for you. So if you had to choose only one thing from your manifesto to focus on, what would it be and why?
Well, thanks for pardon. And as I think we all are having one thing common in our manifestos, that is for career events. It's good to thinking like for progressing. So along with this, I want to go, as you have given me a choice that we have to choose just one. So along with this, I will go with the another point, that is more and more power in the students' hands. So because some students are studying online and some are there in campuses, so it's good to have a talk with them. It's good to have a conversation with them. If I will elect and if I will be a president, definitely I will collectively organize events where I will share my ideas to students and get their ideas. So accordingly, I will do work regarding the events, like which career they want, what they want to become, they want entertainment or they want something else. So we will go for that accordingly. And it's good that all my fellow contestants are having this career events in their manifestos. So ultimately, we all are here for progressive students. So it's very nice to have this thing. And yes, along with this, I will go with the promote more and more power in students' hands. And definitely, I am sure that it's a good idea as per my knowledge. So rest is in the hands of the students. So they will see. Thanks.
Thanks, Navjeet. And then same question again to Aislinn. So if you had to choose only one thing from your manifesto to focus on, what would it be and why?
Thanks, Emma. Yeah, I mean, it's a tough question because I definitely back all of my manifesto aims. But if I had to pick one, I would probably say the mental health element is what I would focus on. And there's kind of two reasons why I say that. The first is that I think myself and my co-president could make the quickest changes with the smallest sorts of steps. And also, I think mental health is just such a central and important part of your student experience. You know, in the extreme circumstances, it can lead people to drop out, you know, not finish their course or have to postpone their studies because they're not well, or it might just end up with you just not performing your best, and you know, you have to put marks on your CV that you may not be particularly proud of, or you know, won't do enough to set you apart from the people already going for the positions that you want. And it also has a really big impact when it comes to things like exams, again with the performance element. And I think that's especially crucial given the fit to sit policy as it is, and you know, that sort of savage attitude of, well, you know, that's inconsequential, when you know, we're not really going to let you retake things, on the stringent restrictions on that, and you know, if that happens, you have to have your marks capped. So you know, it's especially important. And I think as well, you know, being able to deal with imposter syndrome and confidence and issues like that, and talking those out with counselling services, that's something that everyone needs in the working world, and you know, they're going to encounter. So I think that's a really crucial thing to focus on. And yeah, it's not just about being a student, it's going beyond that experience. And I think in terms of the steps that we can take just by signposting better, you know, better communication through emails and more posters and people popping into classes and telling you what you can do and answering questions, that's just going to, you know, have a big impact on its own. Sorry, I had a timer there.
Great, thanks, Aislinn. Set your own timer, very wise. Okay, so I'm going to ask a slightly different question now. So this question, same again, so 2 minutes. So if you could do anything, what single thing would you do to improve the student experience at ULaw? And I'm going to ask this question to Daniel first.
Money, no object. You think?
Yeah, money, no
object.
Money, no object.
In that case, I'd get a full-time sabbatical officer on every campus, for a whole range of roles such as education officer or welfare officer. I mean, I think it's quite misconstrued amongst us, you know, the external student population, other universities, that we're a small university. I mean, we've got 15,000 students across 18 different campuses and one sabbatical officer. I'm really pleased to see that this year there will be 2 sabbatical officers. But trying to keep student engagement high is very difficult, and I think this change would solve a whole number of issues. It makes sure that students' voices were heard at every single level, and nothing can be missed whatsoever. Sabbatical officers would have obviously their own manifesto aims and their own sort of department. So a wellbeing officer would completely focus 100% of their time on wellbeing, education officer on students' academic interests. So I think it would benefit the student population, not just in one area, but over several different areas as well. But there is solutions in the interim period. So we have an excellent network of course reps and vice presidents at the moment. And this year we paid our liberation officers, I think it was £600 and £200 every term, I think it was. This year, if I am elected, I'm really going to push for all our student parliament members to be paid. I think that the work that they do is incredible, and it gives that extra incentive for students to come forward. So obviously, you know, not worry about the money side of things and finding work and stuff, but also reward them for the hard work that they put in so far. So yeah, that would be my solution: more sabbatical officers.
Great, thanks, Dan. So same question now to Santo. So as Dan said, yeah, money, no object. If you had all the money in the world, if you could do anything, what single thing would you do to improve the student experience at ULaw?
I feel like this is like a twofold answer again, because for me, like the most important thing would be like just like supporting mental health, but like in cahoots with like communication as well. So just like improving the quality of like support systems in place, because students have really been struggling like during pandemic and post-pandemic, and there has just been like reduced productivity, like mentioned, increased dropout rates, just negative impact on their sociability, and just no motivation at all. So like having like we could have this in place without we could have all of this in place like in regards to the mental aspect, but without students being able to access those services, it just defeats the whole purpose. So I feel like it should be more out there, not just like in emails and newsletters and posters, just like more forms of communication, more means in which like there can be like a well-being like society that just focuses on this like as a collective goal. Like we don't have enough societies, that's another thing. Like I feel like there are most students who are more interested in like making societies, but then there's a minimum 3 people cap on before a club and society can be formed, and they're just like, oh, but I don't know if I can find people who also have the same goals as me, because half of them are based online, half of them are based on campus. There's just no fluid channels of communication between all of them, especially like unless they're all like in the same class. So I just feel like we need to take the effort to like reach out to people more, since like mentioned, elite is not the most convenient option to navigate. So yeah, so looking at communication as an aspect integrated with like mental health as a whole, and just not waiting for students to engage with you and the events that you put out, but like reaching out to them and giving them like a reason to be there. So yeah, I just feel like there should be like work in progress for like collaborating to improve the resources in regard to well-being and communicating efficiently, and yeah, to bridge students to the university.
Great, thanks, Santo. And then same question again to Tiago. So if you could do anything, what single thing would you do to improve the student experience at ULaw?
Okay, so whilst I think that opening a dialogue between a better dialogue between students and student union is incredibly important, I think it's even more important rather, that a comprehensive online or preferably in person, but since there's some people who exclusively do online, it could be online too, session, which would be hosted whenever something like training contracts, vacation schemes, or pupilages would start to open. And it would detail how you could apply, when you could apply, what these opportunities would provide, what the best way to apply is, and within what dates you should apply, so that every student knows when these happen and how to be adequately prepared for them. And you could also bring in partnered law firms for this, so that you could be in the room with someone who could potentially be interviewing you, and they could tell you what's best to do in any of these interviews. So you could have like a recruitment officer from Trethowens, for instance, if you're anywhere near Guildford, and they could tell you what they would look for in an interview or in a CV, and then any students could adapt so that they would be best prepared, which I think a lot of people aren't in my experience. So yeah, thank you.
Perfect, thanks, Tiago. Okay, so that brings us to the end of our sort of formal questions. I do have one surprise question for you all that you've not seen yet. So just in 30 seconds, I want you to give me a reason why people should vote for you as number one. And then also, if you can just remind us all of your email address if people want to contact you further if they have any questions. So just 20, 30 seconds, a couple of sentences, why should people vote for you as number one, and then give us your email address afterwards. So I'm just going to go around in the order that I can see people on the screen. So I'm going to go to Daniel first.
Cool, yeah. So if you vote for me, you'll be getting a candidate that has got a proven track record. So for the last almost coming up to 12 months now, which is really scary, I put your thoughts, your feelings, your interests at the heart of ULaw decisions, and form links between your personal tutor right all the way up to the VC. You'll also be getting a candidate that's been a ULaw student, not just for 1 or 2 years, but for nearly 4 years. So I was an LLB student and a bar course student. And finally, you'll be able to get a candidate who can hit the ground running. I think there's so much to learn as a sabbatical officer, particularly in the first 3 months. And for me, if I was re-elected, not only would I be able to just carry on with the new goals from day one, but I'd also be able to support the co-president in their role too. So vote for me. My email address is daniel.finlay@law.ac.uk, and I'm also on Instagram as well. So check out my poster and the links on there. So thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Okay, I'm going to go over to Santo next. So just 20-30 seconds. Why should people vote for you as number one, and then your email address as well.
Okay, so as I mentioned, I've been as a student, I've worked for students, I've been on both ends, and I've been at a point where I've struggled, I've seen others struggle, and I've seen others complain about how things can get just a little better. So I want to do that. I want to put in that effort to just, make students just like coming into uni like a comfortable experience, a safe space, and that's mainly what I'm like looking for. And my email is santhosini.singaravelu83@law.ac.uk. Not the most convenient out there because it's so long, so I would recommend just like reaching out to me on LinkedIn. It's santhosini.s, and you can just see all the work that I've been doing in the past. And yeah, I hope you vote for me. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Could you just spell your email address for us?
Yeah, okay, this is gonna take a while. Okay, SANTHOSINGARAVELU83@law.ac.uk.
Perfect.
So not the most convenient. LinkedIn it is, yeah.
No, but thank you, that's great. Next I'm going to come to Navjeet.
Well, as for everyone, I will do my best for you, and I'll make sure with the career events, we will go with more and more power in your hands. So whatever you like, whatever you choose, definitely it should be there. And I will make you guys feel comfortable in university, and you guys feel more and more powerful in our union, in our university, and everyone will feel happy. And regardless of every campus, whoever campus, so everyone feel like, yes, we are the student of University of Law, and I hope you guys will vote for me. Definitely I will work with my superiority and dedication. And thanks. My email ID is navjeet.dhanda18@law.act.uk. So thank you guys. I hope for the best. See you soon.
Thanks, Navjeet. Could you just quickly spell your two names as well for us? Navjeet, could you just quickly spell your both names for us, just so that people have got it?
Well, it is NAVJEET, and my surname is DHANDA. So it's collectively Navjeet Dhanda.
Fabulous, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to come to Aislinn next.
Yep, so basically, if you elect me as one of your co-presidents this year, you will be electing someone that is committed to achieving her aims, very stubborn in that. I'm working on it. I'm also very proactive and efficient. I get stuff done. I have experience that's relevant as a social secretary and a peer mentor, and in customer service, so a range of relevant skills to make me a competent president. And also, if you want to see therapy dogs on campus, there really is no other candidate to vote for. I'm holding that ransom. That I'm your woman if you want to see that. So my email is ashlyn.martin56@law.ac.uk. Aislinn looks like Aislinn. It's spelled AISLINN. That information is all on my campaign poster. Alternatively, you can reach me by my LinkedIn as well. That's also on the poster. And yeah, please don't hesitate to contact me. My inbox is always open, and I'll aim to get back to you as soon as I can. So thank you.
Great, thanks, Aislinn. Tiago?
You should vote for me, because I think there needs to be change in how the students are heard, and I think under me that would definitely happen 100%. And I'm very hardworking, always willing to listen, open to advice, so I'm adaptive. I think I would do a very good job. Vote me. Tiago.lemos90@law.ac.uk.
Great,
Also,
thanks very much.
therapy dog seems like a great idea, by the way.
Everybody's on board with that, I think, Aislinn. And then last but not least, Emma.
Yeah, so reason why I think you should vote for me is, although I've only been a student at ULO now just for this past year, I have had, this is my 5th year being a student altogether, and I have had various experience in different sort of committee and non-committee roles that really just focus on improving the experience for students. And from being here, I've kind of seen what works well at ULO and what doesn't, and I am quite passionate about just trying to give you the best university experience, both academically and socially as well. So my email is emma.barlow42@law.ac.uk. And yeah, if you've got any questions, just feel free to message me anytime.
Great, thanks very much. Okay, so that now brings us to the end of our question time. So our candidates can relax. Before we finish, I'm just going to quickly recap how to vote. So voting is open now as of 28th March yesterday. Voting closes at 12 o'clock midday UK time on Friday the 8th of April. To vote, you can follow the links that you received from the Students' Union at midday on the 28th of March, and that takes you then through to vote via our website. You do need to be logged into the Students' Union website to vote. If you've not already made an account, then you'll need to do so first. What I will say is you need to use your University of Law email address, because that's how our website recognises that you're a current student. But your password will be different to the password that you use for everything else to do with the university. So our website and the university's website aren't linked, so they don't kind of communicate your university password. So use your University of Law email address, but create a different password to your usual one that you use for the ever popular Elite and other things like that. And why should you vote? So obviously we are electing the next student leaders, which impacts on the experience of future students. So even if you're not going to be here next year, that still impacts on students that come after you, and also on the future reputation of the university as well. So even after you've graduated, you might still want to get involved with alumni events and things like that. So it's really important that you do vote and get your voice heard about who you think would be the best student representative. Every student who votes will also be entered into a raffle. You can win one of 4 £50 vouchers or one of 10 £20 vouchers. So definitely worth your time in terms of that. So you could win some cash. And we will also be donating £1 per voter to charity. And that is going to be split 50-50 between our charity of the year, which is RISE, and also the DEC Ukraine Appeal Fund as well. So if you have any questions at all in terms of how to vote, any questions about the elections in general, you can contact me. I'm Emma Beanham. I'm the Deputy Returning Officer. My email address is emma.beanham@law.ac.uk. My surname is spelled BEENHAM. Or if you have any issues with the website, logging in, creating your account, or kind of actually voting, then you can contact our communications manager, Harry, and his email address is harry.walters, so WALTERS @law.ac.uk. But please do vote. You've got until Friday the 8th of April at midday. And as all the candidates have said, the important thing is that you do vote. And please do go and have a look at manifestos, because they've all put in some fantastic effort in creating some fantastic posters. So thanks very much. And I will stop the recording there.